The Unite the Kingdom march went off yesterday, and by all accounts in the BBC this morning on their article online, it says that there was 150,000 people turned up. There were about 5,000 counter-protesters for the Stand Up to Racism protest, but about 150,000 turned up. They walked through London. There was a little video link from Elon Musk who provided some of his thoughts on the matter. There were scuffles with the police. I think generally there were a few police officers injured, which is always highly regrettable in these types of things. No one wants police officers to be injured. They're just out there doing their job. And, if you're out there being an idiot and assaulting police officers because you like a bit of argy-bargy, then I hope you get what you deserve. But for the normal, law-abiding people out there who just want to turn up and show their solidarity and, show their love, really, for their country, then, I feel sorry for those people, because a lot of the scuffles that went on were a very, very small minority. And looking at some of the injuries that the police, I think one had a broken tooth, another dislocated a disc in their back. I think some of these injuries may have been slightly exaggerated, but hey, I'm not going to push that point. The main thing is that on these events, if you've got 150,000 people and more people turn up, you've got huge crowds, you've got a number of idiots in the crowd. There's always idiots in every crowd. And so because of that, there was a bit of a scuffle, which again is highly regrettable. Covering some of the left-wing thoughts on this, because there was no right-wing commentators that came out with any negativity about this, and it seemed to me that the media was having to go to ever more extreme lengths and speak to what I would term fringe politicians. So what we've got here's the mother of the house, Diane Abbott, obviously has been taking in events recently and listening to the heartbeat of the country, and her considered words were this.
Important to stand up to fascism. We need to be in solidarity with asylum seekers, and we need to show that we are united.
And you said this is about women's safety and girls. Obviously the other side say this is about that issue for them too. What's your response?
They're talking nonsense. That's my response. They're talking nonsense, and it's a dangerous lie to try and say that men of colour are a threat to women. It's a very dangerous lie, and I think we need to squash it.
Obviously, we've seen the protests around the hotels, housing asylum seekers, and the government's response. Do you have a message for the government on how they should be responding to these protests?
My message to the government is they want to keep people safe, and we need to be clear that these demonstrations around hotels are racist demonstrations. We have to be clear about that.
And finally, we've had a message go out telling Muslim Londoners maybe to stay at home, maybe it's not safe for them. What do you think people are feeling when there's thousands of people gathering with England flags? Is that intimidating?
Well, I think particularly children and women should try and stay safe, but I'm not going to be intimidated by people. I'm not.
And perhaps somebody might want to give Diane Abbott a little nudge and gently inform her that the year is 2025, because the arguments that she's using there are outdated by about a decade, I would say. People were listening to that type of rhetoric about 10 years ago, but those days are now long gone. And just to address a couple of the points that she was talking about there, solidarity with asylum seekers is such a fabulous term, I think. In the world, there are 195 countries. There are disputed territories. After checking on the internet, apparently the CIA believes that there's 237 countries, which I find quite funny, but most of the rest of the world think that there's 195. So you've got 195 countries in the world. So we're one, and there's 194 other ones. So is it the case that Diane's trying to tell us that in any of those 194 countries, if there's a war going on and your society has collapsed and failed due to your ineptitude as a society within itself, is it the case that anyone from any of those 194 countries can just kind of arrive at Britain's doorstep and say, hello, I'm an asylum seeker now, so take me in? Is it the case that we should have to accept people from all around the world and, in essence, pay for them until the day they die and bring all of their family members over within a couple of years? Is that the case? Well, no. I don't have any solidarity with asylum seekers because, to me, they're called foreign people. Okay, I care about the people of this country, and you can call me a nativist, you can call me a nationalist, you can call me what you like. You can't call me a racist, though, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the concept of the asylum system, and I don't believe in that concept, and this gets to the heart of the issue, because too often we get drawn into these stupid debates about, well, the first country that they land in, and what's the legality in EU law, and maritime law, and the Royal Navy. All of this stuff is bogus. At the core of the central question is this: do you believe that we should have to accept people from all over the world just because they're having a war? And the answer to that is no. And if you also believe in democracy, then you have to agree that most of this country does not agree with the concept of asylum. And I really dislike the way that Diane Abbott brushes off the sexual offences, because here are the stats, and at the top you'll see Afghanistan, Eritrea and Namibia on the sexual offences per 10,000 charts, and they're horrific numbers, I think you'll agree. And this is these numbers are a couple of months old, but this isn't getting any better from the perspective of safety of our women and girls. And right in the bottom corner you'll see the UK. So yes, the highest amount or number of people who commit these sexual offences in Britain are UK natural born residents, or UK citizens, might be a better way to put it. And yes, they are far higher. However, as a proportion per capita per head, this is always the best way to analyse these statistics, the numbers are off the charts. So Diane Abbott was talking rubbish and nonsense there of her own.
What you're seeing here is probably the biggest far-right demonstration ever held in Britain. And I've been among this crowd, and I think it's obvious that many of the people here are wearing our flag as a badge of their own white identity and as a mark of hatred of our multicultural, multinational society. No, there are more progressive people than this. What this is the radicalised mass base of the Reform Party and the Tories. Most people here would have voted Tory, some might have voted Labour, but this is by and large a plebeian, working class, explicitly racist demonstration, and I'm afraid to say it will very likely descend into violence when it gets to Whitehall.
It's a strange way to put it, isn't it? These people have a hatred of our multicultural society. And that phrase there is an attempt to box you in, an attempt to put you in a place where you have to argue that point. But none of that statement is true, because the premise with which it's based on is false. We don't live in a multicultural society. We live in British society. And you can come here, you can live here, you can be from any culture in the world, and you can come here as long as you follow our rules and participate in our culture, then that's okay. The rest isn't. And it's as straightforward as that. So we don't live in a multicultural society, so we can't hate a society. That's a straw man that's been created by Mr. Mason. But Mr. Mason is very good at straw men. He's another failed Marxist economist who has the child's view that if you redistribute the wealth to everyone, then everything's going to be kumbaya and all the problems in society are going to be solved overnight. And so when you've got somebody who believes these types of things at the core of them, you have to question other things that come out of them. And, the statement, hatred of our multicultural society, is a ridiculous way to present that type of feeling that Mr. Mason has, that he hates people demonstrating against the way that this government is running our country, and the small boats and everything that we already know about. But the funniest thing I thought was I found this little video which was the perfect antidote to Mr. Mason. So there was a video taken of some protesters going and buying a curry. And of course this was seen as being quite funny by the people doing the video, but really I think it perfectly demonstrates the reasons why Mr. Mason is wrong, why Diana Abbott is wrong, and why the media's interpretation of these people is entirely wrong.
Get out of my country, man. Let me get that. Let me grab that Indian street food. Oi, look, it's popping over here. It is popping over here. They probably never made so much. They probably never made so much money. Ah, God bless them, man.
And you saw there exactly what I mean. It's shock horror. Do racists eat curry? Well, they must eat curry, mustn't they? Because he's buying one, he's got an English flag there. Isn't that funny that they don't realise they're eating a curry and they're a racist? Come on. The reason why those people were walking through our capital, why 150,000 people decided on a Saturday to turn up and walk through waving their flags, is because they've had enough of this government. They've had enough of the small boats. And we don't care about where you're from. Mostly there are obviously a few racists out there who just don't like black people, but that's not who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to the majority of law-abiding British people out there who are sick and tired of listening to Keir Starmer drone on about smashing the gangs and illegal migration and fixing the foundations, and having successive Home Secretaries holding up signs saying refugees welcome, and all the rest of the garbage that's going on. The British people have a right to be really annoyed about this. Successive governments have changed the demographic of our country for the worst, made us poorer, and nobody ever asked the people if it was okay. Nobody ever asked us. And, these protests must be worrying the government. They must be a cause for concern. And right at this moment, with Keir Starmer and the Mandelson thing going on, and everything else that this government, this embattled government, is trying to deal with, this protest yesterday is just throwing more onto the fire, and they just can't cope with all the stuff that's being thrown at them. And pretty soon, there is going to come a crunch point where all round the country, every weekend, these marches are going to happen. And the only people to blame are the government. Successive governments who've allowed this to happen. They're the cause of it. They are the root problem. The people that are running our society, the elites that have decided that they want to buy into this multicultural lie, are the ones that has created all of this. And it's all on them. And it's only going to get worse from here until the government sit up and do something. And all they have to do is stop the boats. That's all they have to do. And this will start to calm down back to a simmering level again. But they're unable to do that because ideologically, the current government, this Labour government, and the Tories are married to mass migration. And that's one of the reasons why Reform UK are probably going to win the next election, and I hope that they can bring an end to all of this. Thanks very much for your time.